Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the first Celtic exchange of the new year. All the best to everyone for 2025. Hope it brings you a healthy and happy new year. This is Tino, joined by James and Paddy for the countdown to kick-off ahead of tomorrow's 3 o'clock kick-off. It's the Glasgow derby, of course, against Rangers at Ibrox. James, I'll come to you first. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Feel pretty good. Yeah, feeling confident. The prep has been excellent in terms of the rotation, the squad management. We've had a lot of jip for the rotation, but it's got us to a position where, Glasgow derby is always a big game no matter the gap. And it's got us to a position where we're firing on all cylinders, got a full squad to pick from, apart from Jamesy. So, yeah, looking forward to it. And, bit of media comment that the pressure's all on Rangers. The pressure's never off you in a game like this, and Brendan will have the boys fired up.
Definitely, and we'll get into Brendan's chat. I've watched his press conference there this morning. It's pretty good, pretty entertaining. He's on really decent form, and we'll chat through that. Paddy, what's your general thoughts to start with, or how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I think obviously the last couple of games over the festive period, we've played some really nice football, and I think we're seeing the benefits of maybe pulling Engels out the firing line a little bit. I think he's come back and he's really been a main contributor for us. And I think we go into this game knowing that only 2.5 weeks ago we had a difficult cup final against them. So the respect from our team will be there in terms of Rangers managed to stifle us a little bit at Hampden, albeit we scored the 3 goals. And that's where we need to realise is that they are to be got at. We can score against them, but we also just need to be careful and make sure there's no sloppy mistakes as well on our end. But I'm fairly confident about it. I think that it's always a difficult place to go, Ibrox, no matter the team, no matter the form. I don't believe in this dead rubber pattern as well, but I think that the quality of us and the confidence of us should shine through and be enough to go and get the 3 points.
Yeah, the dead rubber chat's only coming from one side of the city because they need to play this down as much as they can. This is a game which could, maybe should, see Celtic go 17 points clear. Seen a good comment from Paul Allen, who says, Happy New Year. Could be 20 clear on Sunday after our next fixture, which would be quite incredible. Just on that note, big thanks to everyone that continues to join us in the live. A lot of the usual faces, great to see Paul here, Paul Allen, Steve Letford, San Fran Celtic, Fred Williams, Gypsy King, a couple of new members, Joe Doyle, James, we know Joe very well. Great to see Joe here as well. A couple of good friends of the show. Remember, if you do want to comment on the live pre and post match shows that we do here on YouTube, you do need to be a member of the channel. Link to do so are in the show notes for this episode. James, you mentioned about managing the squad and how well Brendan Rodgers has done that in recent times. Folks will see that Miff isn't here. I don't know if he's still shaking off the hangover from the last episode that we done just at Christmas there, but Miff was particularly complimentary about how well the squad has been managed, and he said that you will get ups and downs given the fixtures, the programme at this time of year. This game tomorrow, 2nd of January, is the first of 9 games that Celtic face in January alone, which includes 2 Champions League fixtures and a Scottish Cup fixture. So it's relentless. They come thick and fast. And James, I think you need to give the manager credit for getting us through, at least to this point, seeing out the year, still unbeaten at Celtic Park, which is phenomenal. 2 defeats overall in 2024, Dortmund and Hearts. And that's it. He's managed it particularly well.
He definitely has. All plaudits to him. I think the thing that Rodgers manages almost best of all is how to reset. So you commented quite strongly on it after the cup final. They were looking at Dundee United. They weren't looking at, we've got the cup and we're just going to go focus on that. We've got the cup, that's great. Let's go to the next challenge. Now you do need to celebrate your wins, but you need to know where your focus is and get ready for that, which they did very well. So what Rodgers will have done now is saying, right, that mini league almost that we had to get us to the end of December is completed, and very successfully, I would say. And we've got another mini league coming up in January, and the challenges there are to maintain and even stretch your lead at the top of the league. But most of all, and that's the thing, this is the third most important game for us tomorrow in January, because the 2 big games are Bern and Aston Villa. That's the real challenge, is to win them and get yourself into the knockouts of the Champions League.
Yeah, I don't think many would disagree with that. Paddy, what do you think? Obviously, when you're rotating your squad and chopping and changing and trying to keep things fresh in all areas of the park, actually outside the goalie, defence has been shaken up. Midfield, we've seen Callum McGregor given a rare rest last time out there. And the front line, there's obviously been changes there. And some enforced, I suppose, with James Forrest missing out. But the managers made those changes, but by and large, Celtic continue just to win games of football. 3 draws. I spoke about the final 10 games that we had in the calendar year. I'm going to go back to the fact that I said that we could and should have been targeting winning all 10, that we were certainly capable of winning all 10, but we won 7 and we drew 3. The 3 draws being the Dundee United one, which Celtic get too much flack for, and the 2 others in Europe, which was Zagreb and Bruges. Not bad, Paddy, considering. And at the moment, you see how fresh this squad is. We'll get to Rangers and their injury woes just shortly, but with James Forrest being the only concern there for Celtic, you'd have to say that Brendan Rodgers, with the support of his sports science team, have got this pretty much spot on heading into January.
Yeah, and I think touching on to that press conference you're speaking about, Tino, he was very clever in how he determined and how he uses the sports science, and he doesn't discard it. He says that it has a place, but ultimately the decision comes down to him. And I think that when you're seeing and talking to a player, and it's really coming down to what does this player have in the tank? What adrenaline do they have? Are they up for the game? Are they going to give 100%? And are we going to get 60 minutes, 90 minutes out of them? One thing that we have in this squad is real quality, and I think that I see every week on Twitter, that's the best starting 11. This is the starting 11. This should be the starting 11. We don't have a starting 11. That's what fans need to start realising. I think we don't have a set up starting 11. We might have a strong 11, but what we have is a team of 15, 16 players that are going to play week in, week out, and that's what Brendan Rodgers has wanted. He wants a bench of real quality and a bench of real depth. Yeah, there may have been too many changes against Dundee United, but when you look at it, that's still a huge difference in midfield at the weekend against St Johnstone. We've seen in other games, obviously the likes of Luke McKinnon coming in. We've seen Anthony Ralston coming in at right back to give the likes of Alistair Johnson. Nicholas Kuhn has been given plenty of rest this month as well. We need that quality. We do, and I think that when we look at this transfer window that's now opened, he'll know the missing pieces to just make it even stronger. And especially when we get 9 games coming up in this month, and still a busy February, and then we're waiting really ultimately for the next break to be around that next international window. So that's the main bit for me on that.
James, we'll go on to the lineups just shortly, but same old Celtic dragging their heels. KT should have been over the line by now, and as yet it remains unconfirmed. Your thoughts on that and any other speculation you've seen in the last, 24, 48 hours or so?
This season, Dick, I'd be giving it a bin. Disgraceful.
If you were a holder.
Disgraceful. There'll have been pre-conversations on that one by the sounds of things. I don't know if they're doing a wee sneaky announcement tomorrow morning, or if the SFA's fax machine isn't turned on the 1st of January. I don't think he starts tomorrow, even if they got the paperwork done. He's not even confirmed as he's definitely signing, but I think it's looking that way. And my opinion is a good thing. But yeah, there's work to be done. But I think Rodgers is looking a wee bit further than even this block of 9 games. He's looking to sign guys that will push you through, much like we did with Eden and Kuhn January last year. Those guys were, even Kuhn with his injury and stuff, his weight loss, he did play his part, like against Aberdeen in the Cup semi. Ida obviously was, instrumental in that 5-month period, so he knows the kind of profile of player he's looking for. But I think with that as well, we've got ourselves in a position, coefficient-wise, that there's qualifiers coming up, and this is when you sign your qualifier guys. You don't sign them in the summer. You want them in now, bedded in and ready to go, so that there's qualifiers, but you blaze through them like a Champions League team, not a contender, So obviously, with my track record, I have full confidence in the background team and everyone to do what they need to do there. But I do believe that, Tisdale's been in the building for, he's really been in the building since the summer, but officially since October. And between himself and Rodgers, Nicholson, they'll know exactly what they need to do. And I do have faith in them to do it.
Yeah, How funny would it be if he's went to Rodgers and said, by the way, my stats, my searches have all come back with 2 players that used to actually play with Celtic, and it's Jota and KT. How do they sound?
What's the chances?
What's the chances?
And also, we should be playing Nawrocki and Lagerbielka, Brendan, but we'll get to that. No, I don't expect a huge deal of activity in these opening days of January. I suppose we were spoiled, weren't we, under Ange when we signed? We used to sign guys in December for the January window. That was the move back then, given some of the Japanese players that came in, and Matt O'Reilly as well was a January. But we'll see. I think Celtic are going to make some smart additions. We're in a perfect position to do so. We've got the funds. We're well placed. You're attractive to any potential new signing given where we are in Europe, and also if anyone's considering Celtic as maybe a stepping stone, which is okay, that's part of modern football. You can look at the recent example of guys like Matt O'Reilly and see that this is a thing that you can do at Celtic. So I think we're attractive, and we'll see what happens here over the next couple of weeks. There might be some exits. Stephen Welsh is strongly rumoured to be going to Belgium. Louis Palmer, hold on. Louis Palmer, my mug guy. Heavily discounted in the Celtic store. I was looking for the Yang ones. I presume they were all sold out given his popularity, but I've gone
for the listeners. Tino's just held up his Palmer mug there, so just so you know.
So Louis Palmer might be on the way out. Guys like Bernabe might move for a few quid. We'll see what happens there. But let's get back on track for tomorrow. In terms of the lineup, Paddy, the goalie doesn't change, and nor should it. So Kasper Schmeichel will be in goals. I'll give you my back four, and you can tell me what you think. Any changes? Great to see Alistair Johnson come back out in the fold, and we're just a better team with him. That's the bottom line. So he came in against St Johnstone, just looked very assured as he always does. Carter Vickers and Liam Scales now seems to be the pair, and I thought he'd settled on Trusty. Trusty's back out. You know, that's what happened at the cup final. Liam Scales came in for the second half, and that's remained the case by and large. So Carter Vickers and Scales, I would expect, would be the pairing, and I hope it's Baye, but I think it'll be Taylor. What do you think?
I'll agree with you for the first four, and I think it will be Baye tomorrow. I think hearing rumours about Taylor rejecting another contract, another contract offer, seems to me that he's signalled that that's it. I think also the early chat with Zagreb shows that there's already interest afloat for Greg Taylor. So no, I think we'll see Alex Baye tomorrow.
I hope so. James, where are you at on that one? I think I've been saying just for a number of weeks now, I just want to see consistency, however it is. If Taylor's his guy at the end of the season, go with Taylor. If it's Baye, go with Baye. But the chopping and changing is not great. Baye obviously came in against St Johnstone there. Did Taylor come on at the weekend? I don't think he did he?
No, he finished. Yeah.
So he's either given a full rest to Greg Taylor, or he's telling Baye, okay, go and be the man.
Show me. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you both in terms of Johnson's CCV. I thought Scales' is passing on whatever day we last played against St Johnstone was excellent, and that's my biggest criticism of Scales, that he's passing is the one that lets him down. I thought he was really crisp, he was really positive. So, you know, if he's listening and being coachable and things like that, then all the better to have Self and Trusty just taken out for that position. But I think Scales will get the nod. Trusty haven't had a wee virus, not many minutes in these legs. It just makes sense to play Scales, knows the competition, knows the clash and the tie. But I saw Baye at Woodlands Road's petrol station yesterday. It just looked like he was going to play football in a couple of days. So I'm going to go with that. He just had that wee look in his eye that I'm ready.
He had that kind of vibe about you. Did he go up to you and say, you're that podcaster guy? You're that guy?
He's a steaming bunch of podcasters.
Yeah. I hope Baye plays. Let's see what happens. I suppose the fact that Greg Taylor is now officially, and talks will have gone place before now, but I suppose the fact that talks are officially possible for Greg Taylor, you don't want a player distracted in any way. You don't want the fact that he's been speaking to Dynamo Zagreb or the rumoured club, but there may be others. Gypsy King has sent me something separately saying he's heard he's off to America. Various things might be on the go for Greg Taylor, and you don't want anyone less than 100% focused. And Brendan Rodgers will look out for that. So I thought his interview, his press conference was great, and you'll see a comment on screen from Steve Letford, and Steve says that Brendan's press conference yesterday was a masterclass in subtlety at times. I thought it was a masterclass all round. I think he's so comfortable and confident and focused and says the right things more often than not in these press conferences. And he was talked, Paddy, you mentioned that he was asked about sports science and how important a part that plays. Would that ever, force his hand or decide, who plays and who doesn't? And he says it's all part of the makeup. He takes information from all these departments, and then he uses that to make his decision. But the most important thing he says is the players, they're human beings, and he gauges off of them. It's an emotional sport. I think he described it as an art at one point. Football is an art. And he said he takes his lead from the players. Yes, the sports science might say give him 60 minutes. But I think if Brendan Rodgers speaks to a guy and sees how he's training and sees how motivated and how up for a particular game is, then he might just say, I'm giving him the 90 if I want to, and if he feels able. I really don't like it, actually, how influential sports science is on the modern game. I suppose because there's so many games now, 50, between 50 and 60 games for Celtic this season. But I just think that can't be your overarching factor for deciding who plays and who doesn't. And that's where Philippe Clement, amongst many mistakes he's making, is falling short, Paddy. He's been too swayed by that, and I think Rodgers seems to have the right approach, doesn't he?
I think it's an easy subject to come up after what's happened last week for Brendan Rodgers, and actually some strange questions, to be honest, for me from the press yesterday. We'll come on to Keith Jackson, I'm sure, but the thing for Rodgers is that, yeah, he will look at the players, and it's an easy answer for him to give, to look like the better manager in this situation, taking nothing away from him at all. But we have rotated our squad an awful lot over the last month, and I think that we've done it really, really well. We've managed players well. We've got as much as we possibly can out of players as well. I think Rio Hatate at the end of the 120 minutes, he was on his way out. he couldn't stand up. I think that when you look at some players that we've seen over the years at Celtic, I think Tom Rogic, I think of the likes of Hatate, maybe our marked players where you see them getting taken off. He has really tried to change that as much as possible and say, well, hang on a minute, this is your bread and butter. This is what you are getting paid to do week in, week out. Yeah, it's a long season, but football's fun. Football's brilliant. You should be wanting to play at all times, and especially the kind of football that we're playing. Yeah, it's going to take a lot out of you, but the just reward is there when you go and win trophies at the end of the season. And I think that's the difference in mentality that we have here at Celtic that they don't have across the road.
Yeah, spot on, Paddy. I thought you mentioned Rio Hatate at Hampden. Had sports science had a say in that, they'd have taken him off at the very start of extra time, if not the very end of the 90.
Aye.
Myself, from a non-sports science background, would also have said take him off. He looked absolutely done. Brendan Rodgers had options. He could have made a sub, and he decided to keep him on. And you could argue that Hatate was Celtic's best player during the extra time, and he scored an all-important penalty. So what do we know? And I think that's where knowing your players and having that emotional connection with your players really comes to the fore. Paddy, you've spoken about rotation, and there's no area that's been rotated more, I would argue, than Celtic's midfield three. Callum McGregor did get his break against St Johnstone on Sunday, but he absolutely will come back in the number 6 role tomorrow. So who is alongside him? That's always the question. Is it Arnie Engels, who's had 2 man-of-the-match performances in a row at Celtic Park? Is it Paulo Bernardo, who's quickly become a favourite? Is it Rio Hatate, who's Rio Hatate? Is it Luke McCowan, who'd be absolutely bursting to play in this game? What do you think?
I'm going to go Engels, and I'm going to go Rio Hatate. Would you believe it? I think Paulo Bernardo's been excellent. I thought he was excellent at the weekend. But for me, I think you need someone like Engels. He's an engine, a player. I just think he's all over their midfield as much as we need that tomorrow as well. And then Rio Hatate breaks their lines down, and that's the thing that we really need. Bernardo definitely has a place. Bernardo has 30-35 minutes in him tomorrow, 100%, and it'll be a pivotal part of the game. I don't doubt that. But for me, I think Engels and Hatate are the two for tomorrow in front of McGregor.
Yeah, and you'll see, Paddy, Fred Williams agrees, and I agree. I think that's the 3. James, where are you at?
I'm the exact same. I think it's very harsh on Bernardo and McCowan. McCowan's maybe not had as many minutes as probably most of us would like, particularly himself, he'd like to have more minutes. But he's getting his chances, he's doing his bit, and he's kind of getting there, and he's definitely pushing the rest of them to be at their best at all times. Bernardo would have to consider himself particularly unfortunate to be left out. I think he's flying at the moment. He was slotted in as a number 6 against St Johnstone, and he was just like, no bother. He just bossed it. But what you're starting to see with the excellent management of Engels, I think, in his wee dip there, and Rodgers has coached him and rested him and brought him on, and you're just starting to see what we saw at the start of Engels' Celtic career. There's two things between, you're saying, Paddy, about Rio breaking the lines, which is huge for us.
Yeah.
But Engels is starting to master this sweeping pass in from the right, and it's just got such a bend on it that it starts going away from the defender and then pulls in towards the striker. And when you've got guys like Kyogo and Dyson in your front line, that's just a gift from God. So I think that'll be the setup, but I would fully expect both the benched midfielders to come on at some point, half an hour mark, half an hour to go.
That's the kind of pass, isn't it, Jamie? James, I think you look at that kind of ball going into the box. Not only if that angle doesn't create itself, you've then got the through ball or the on ball to Nicholas Kuhn on the right as well. So it's a headache for any team. He's finding a bit more space for himself. I think that's been the difference. He's pulling away from his marker a lot more. I think he wants a game like this. He really does. Yeah. I think he wants to stand up and be counted tomorrow. So I would give him the nod.
Do you know that whipped ball by Engels? He's actually deployed it about 3 or 4 times in the last couple of games. He's become confident in it, and he's got the ability to just get out his feet and bend it around the first marker. That's the all important part of it. And at that point, it just becomes a nightmare to defend. I thought Kyogo's goal, his second goal, Celtic's third against St Johnstone, was class. It was actually good general build-up play, and then to finish it in that manner, just an excellent goal all round. Somebody had pointed out to me that despite the criticism that Arne Engels got, and you could certainly debate that he was a wee bit out of sorts and whatever, a month ago, something like that, his spell out of the 11 coincided with Celtic not playing so well. And sometimes players do a lot of work that can at times be unseen. We all look out for the assists and the goals, but that cannot be the metric that all games of football are judged on solely. They're a hugely important part, and they're the part that can make the difference. But there's 90 minutes of football out with those goals. You need to go and command your midfield. You need to protect your defence. You need to provide ample support to your strikers. There's a whole bigger picture at play. And you would argue that Celtic seem to be more rounded when Engels plays. He seems to be one of those guys that, to an extent, lets the players around him play as well. And I just think that it has been brilliant management, because he might have been feeling out of sorts. But you know that Brendan Rodgers won't drop a guy like that and not speak to him. He'll say, you're not going to start tomorrow, and here's why, and here's what I need you to do when you get back in. And by the way, you will be getting back in a couple of games, but this is how I'm going to play it. There's no doubt that kind of stuff goes on. And I think what he's done now, we spoke just a minute ago about a Brendan Rodgers masterclass in terms of his press conference. I think he's played a masterclass in terms of some of the individuals and the way he's managed them recently, no more than Arne Engels, who should start tomorrow. I'm pretty sure he will do. And he'll go into it full of confidence. And Paddy, as you say, this is a game he wants. Arne Engels is happy to play against Motherwell, happy to play against St Johnstone. Yeah. He wants to go and dominate a Rangers fixture. He wants to go and make his mark in Europe. And I think it's all there for him. So I think we're universal here that those 3 lads will start. Callum McGregor, Arne Engels and Reo Hatate. James, up top, the tale of Celtic season, by and large, has been Kuhn, Kyogo, Maeda. I don't see any reason at all for that not to be the move tomorrow. But there are a few suggestions that Ida may be the man, just based on how Rangers play. What do you think?
I love the big man, but he's not starting tomorrow. It's just tailor-made for Kyogo. All that we're speaking about there, the kind of breaking the lines, the passes from Engels, the fast pace. It's just Kyogo all over it. And he's shown himself to be a hundscalper in the past, and he'll just keep doing that. That's his move. So I'm not touching that. Kyogo up front for me.
Yeah. What about you, Paddy? Some bold statement. Interesting choice of words from James here, Paddy. What do you think?
It's going to get made to a PG now, this video after that. I think, same front 3 for me. I think he seems to turn it on before these games. Just pops back up and says, hey, remember me? Memories we're all talking about getting rid of me in January. Don't be so stupid, guys. He's the best striker in the country by far. And he loves a goal against them. So he's got to start tomorrow. And I'm going to back money tomorrow that he'll score. Easy.
Yeah. I think he has 8 goals against Rangers, Paddy, and you would certainly see a big chance for him to make it number 9. Just a big welcome to PG's Real Football Podcast. That's Paul, that I know pretty well, thanks to Paul, who's become a member as well. As I say, thanks to those who continue to join the channel. There's a good comment actually from Sanfran, follows on from what we're saying. A lot of us wanted Ida to start last time out. Brendan played Kyogo and now his confidence will be sky high. Great management. And I think as well, if Ida doesn't start tomorrow, he'll also be speaking to him as to why he doesn't start and what he needs to do to maybe get the start next time around. And I think what you've got is a really hungry and motivated squad. And part of that can be in large due to what potentially lies ahead over the second half of this season. You're on course for an invincible season. You could go for the treble. There's European stuff there. Everybody wants to be part of that. So nobody wants to let up. Nobody's coming in and coasting. That's the thing. Everyone's coming in and trying to have an impact. What are we at? We're 25 minutes and I haven't even mentioned Yang. What's going on there? I've not properly mentioned him. He doesn't start tomorrow. I don't think he should start. Zinedine Ziyang, we're calling him, but I don't think he should start. But what I have predicted is Yang will be the final goal scorer at Ibrox tomorrow, and that'll be my big bet. I think obviously there's a lot of maybe hope more than expectation on my part there because I'm a fan, but sometimes players need these moments in their career, and if it doesn't happen for Yang in the coming weeks, he might find himself on the move. That's a cutthroat world at Celtic. But also you could have that sliding doors. We've spoken a lot about Ryan Christie's sliding doors moment at Murrayfield, where he came in for Abuya Kouassi, who got injured, and all of a sudden Christie became a mainstay at that time for Celtic. And I think Yang needs a moment or a game or a something, a goal, an assist, something big. And I hope that can happen tomorrow. But James, there is a huge dose of quality on the Celtic bench, whether Yang's your guy or not. But there's various other guys. Bernardo might not start. McCowan might not start. Aramida might not start. There's quality and depth across the board, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at market. I've suggested bench here. And as it's Bernardo, McCowan, Ida, Trusty, there's quality there. I think we are just a wee bit weak in the wings, but they've both shown, Yang and Palmer, they can come on and do a job. I thought Yang was decent against St Johnstone. Just he's in that trying too hard phase now, but still, he still showed bits of what he can do and put some good balls in and stuff like that. I'm not fully done with him, but I think it's got to be do something tomorrow to save your Celtic career, and that's a lot of pressure for a young boy, So, but he wouldn't start in front of Kuhn and Dines. It's more if he can come on and be an impact and maybe get the 6th or the 7th, something like that.
Encouraging words there for Yang that James is not fully done with him just yet, so I'm sure he'll be motivated by that. Paddy, you'll have heard lots of chat about Rangers' troubles in terms of availability. James Tavernier's injured, and the breaking news just before we come on is that Jack Butland is unavailable. I think that the official line is he's in hospital with some sort of internal bleeding. So very sincerely, we hope that's nothing serious. It obviously rules him out for tomorrow, but you would hope that that's all okay and that he's back fit, fit young guy sometime soon. But Paddy, they do have their challenges elsewhere, don't they? John Souttar's out. They don't know whether to stick or twist with Igaman up front and Cherny's in and out and all sorts of stuff going on. And they were all over the place anyway. Now they're even more so, aren't they?
Massive blow if he's out, which obviously, it looks like Butland's definitely not playing tomorrow. But then you've lost Tavernier. You've probably going to have to play Sterling at right back. Balogun's still not confirmed, for 90 minutes as well. So the back line's looking pretty shaky for them. There's not a lot of confidence in Yefte or Yilmaz at the moment for them as well. So it's up to us to try and capitalise on that. I'm with you on that with Butland. Wish him all the best. I hope that's nothing serious at all. But I think that in terms of what we come up against tomorrow, it will still be pretty dogged in terms of how they set up against us. I watched back the highlights of the cup final, and it amazes me how they dragged us into such an intense affair. I really can't believe how poor they played, and we fell sucker to some of their traps, absolutely, but they do not know how to play football. It's smash and grab, it really is, and I think that's where it's very difficult to say this, it's very easy to say it, very difficult to go and do at Ibrox, but I think that's where we need to just show up tomorrow, try and dominate the game from the beginning, as our manager has said, but just be patient if we don't always get the ball. Weather seems a bit calmer tomorrow, I think that will help us as well. But yeah, I think we win the midfield battle. We go and take 2 or 3 off them. I really think that'll be the case.
Yeah, and we'll get your big prediction just shortly, Paddy. James, the manager was asked about how do you approach this, with no Celtic fans in attendance. Is it different? Do you try and silence the crowd early? All these kind of things. He says he'd approach it the exact same way as he approaches St Johnstone and Motherwell and all these other games, whether there's fans or not. Celtic know how they play. They know their system. They know how they press. They know how they pass. And it doesn't change. Of course, it will feel different with no Celtic fans in attendance. But the players are professional enough to know their job. And I think they'll go out with a real focus. We spoke after the cup final about Rangers' approach this time around at Ibrox, given that they came close at the cup final, but obviously not close enough. And they obviously were very defence-minded. They sat in. They were happy to let Celtic get, Carter Vickers particularly, get towards the halfway line before even engaging. And then they would make things really tight and really compact. Can a Rangers manager who's 14 points behind do that at Ibrox, or do they need to come out the traps and go hell for leather and see, will he be swayed by the crowd, or will he do what he genuinely believes gives him the biggest chance of success?
You said this as we were walking out of Hampden after the cup final, that he couldn't do that at Ibrox. My contention was that he has to. I mean, he's found what's as close to a winning formula against us, which is just chaos ball, agricultural football, aeronautical football. They're a expensive Livingston. It's full of block and long balls up to a lone guy. I definitely hope they start with a man, because Rangers' biggest problem over the last 12 years has been when a guy hits any kind of form, they think he's worth 20 million, and that's just not how football works. So let him play. He might be a player, I don't know. I've seen bits and bobs of him. He can strike a ball, but the more you give these guys game time, the more you find out that McCausland's not the guy, Barnes not the guy, so on and so forth. So, but I do expect Clement to set up exactly as he did in the cup final. And to Rodgers' comments, we're trying to score in the first minute of every game. High press, aggressive, attacking football, interlinking play, lots of movement. And that's how it will be. And if you can get that goal in the first 20 minutes, you flip that crowd from a negative to a positive straight away,
You say the first 20 minutes, Dies in my head says the first 20 seconds is his kind of target. So that shows how far ahead of us he really is. I think it's going to be so telling, because Brendan Rodgers mentioned that you can anticipate what a team's going to do and how they're going to set up, but until the whistle goes, you really don't know. You'll find out within those first 30 seconds as to how they shape up. But Brendan Rodgers has a plan for every eventuality. He'll be watching as closely as ever in those opening minutes of the game, and he'll tweak his system if he needs to accordingly. I think that's going to be so telling. Just a final word, James, for the managers in terms of Rodgers v Clement, which is a mismatch for me. Clement is now under serious pressure if he wasn't already. He's 6 games against Celtic and 5 losses and 1 draw. And Brendan Rodgers, as we know, he's now 20 games against Rangers and still only 1 defeat. I think 2018, a 1-0 defeat Ryan Jack scored at Ibrox. The psychological edge that Celtic as a unit, as a team have over Rangers is there for all to see. But I think Clement knows he's out of depth when it comes to him v Rodgers as well.
I don't think he's a master tactician anyway, but there's such a disparity in the squads. The level of quality in the squads. It's hard to see who would come in and balance that scorecard. I just think it's a bit of an impossible task. But yeah, I mean, his management style is poor enough, but his grasp on reality is the thing I'd be really worried about. I mean, if I was a Rangers fan, I'd be worried about a lot of things, but that's certainly high up on the list. Just coming out before you're playing Motherwell and you're talking about penalties that Celtic got that the Motherwell manager wasn't happy with last time out, and you're going, what are you talking about? Why is that even in your mind? Focus on your game, and if you don't focus on your game, you might end up with a 2-each draw. I think he's all over the place. The new boy that's in for Rangers, Patrick Stewart, I think Paddy might have some work to do there and just start preparing his exit tomorrow morning.
We'll see. Paddy, I should have checked these stats before coming on, but we lined them off last time in terms of recent Celtic v Rangers form. I think it's now approaching 200 games since they won a meaningful fixture against us. It's something in that ballpark, and it stretches pretty far back, and that plays on the minds of players. Actually, I mentioned last time out that it plays on the minds of guys like Butland and Tavernier, who've now experienced numerous defeats against Celtic, and maybe the fact that they've got Agaman's not played much against Celtic, Cherny, various others, Diamande and whatever. I wonder, do you need that experience, or could it go the other way? Could the lack of experience of Celtic ones actually help some of the guys that haven't been there, done that?
Well, the thing is that obviously if you've got Butland and Tavernier, if they were part of the 11, you're feeding off those guys. They're the leaders for them, and that obviously their experience hasn't been great against us. So who picks that baton up tomorrow? Is it Raskin? Is it Liam Kelly coming in goals? I mean, I honestly don't know who their leaders in the park are tomorrow, and this is where there will be those moments of doubt from them. It won't be as structured for them as they have been against us in terms of breaking the game down and slowing it down. I think there's mistakes to be had tomorrow, and we just need to be ready to pounce on them.
Who's their captain tomorrow, Paddy? Who takes on that mantle? I can't think.
Honestly, can't think.
Sterling, maybe? Sterling?
Maybe. Or Raskin. I would imagine it would be Raskin. He's got the biggest mouth.
Do you think so? But he's not your captain, Mouth. He's your wee nippy. He's your Gattuso type. I suppose he was a captain as well, but he was a decent player. I can't see giving the armband to Raskin. That would be a disaster. Not for us.
I can't think of anyone else. Honestly,
I hope it's Raskin, and he can chalk up a defeat in his first game as captain. But that's the thing, isn't it, Paddy? You talk about looking for leaders. Celtic have got leaders all across the dressing room. If it's not Callum McGregor, it's Carter Vickers. If it's not him, it's Casper Schmeichel. If it's not him, it's Alistair Johnson, and so on and so forth. We've got leaders across the board, and I just do not know who that guy is for them tomorrow. So we'll need to wait and see. Before I come to the guys for their scoreline predictions, I'd ask those in the comments to let us know theirs. I'll read a few of the scorelines out when we get to them. And I like the suggestion by San Fran that Ibrox empty by half-time tomorrow is going to make for some atmosphere. If Celtic score early and come out the traps, it could be all sorts of chaos there, and we could see a pretty empty Ibrox at some point, pretty sharpish. James, I'll come to you first for your scoreline prediction, though, and what do you think it'll be, and what's your reasons for that?
I think we're well set up, as we've discussed in the last half an hour or so, and I expect us to come out the traps flying. The biggest challenge for me tomorrow is not in any bias way, but Robertson does like to allow an aggressive style of football. We've seen the bad side of that, Ideguchi and Kalmak both, Ideguchi in particular, I would say. So I think that's a real advantage for Rangers in being able to play, aggressive industrial football, Diamande and players like that. If you're not going to book those guys early doors, they're maybe playing more football than they should in the game. But if you take control of that, it stamps out. I don't think that'll happen. I think he'll allow the game to be aggressive. But just the way we're flowing, that midfield, as we're discussing the positives and who's going to start, plus the positives that's on the bench, I think that's going to be huge for us tomorrow. The wings are flying. Dyson's got a new guy to terrorise. It's 4-0 Celtic for me.
4-0. I like it. There's a variety of scorelines coming in. San Fran agrees with you. He's gone 4-0. We've got Fred Williams. He's gone 2-0. Gaza West, he thinks it'll be a cagey affair from Rangers' point of view, but 3-1 to Celtic. Thomas Dawson's got the same. He's 3-1. Big Rab C, he's gone for 4-0 as well. I'm mixing there, Paddy, but the theme absolutely is confidence in Celtic to go and get a few goals on the day. I'll finish with Mazar's result, actually. He says that Brendan will lay down a marker like he did against Aberdeen in the semi after we drew with Aberdeen at Celtic Park. He's going for 6-1, a cheeky Kyogo hat-trick and a Nicholas Kuhn masterclass. Then, to top it all off, a Brendan Rodgers contract extension on Friday. Paddy, are you as excited and confident as Mazar, or what do you think yourself?
I would love that to take place. I really would. I think that would be an incredible start to the year, that. I think knowing these fixtures and knowing these pressure moments, I think you go back to the 5-1 game at Ibrox, where we toyed with them, really upset them a lot, that it then went to the next game where we beat them with 10 men, the 3-2 game. Big games that really have an effect on the mindset of their fan base. They spat the dummy, they cut the away allocation. Their fans don't take too kindly to us coming up into their backyard and winning with style, like we tend to do. We've seen it the past few years as well, that it's been our coaching staff on the bench, our goalkeeper's box, been attacked as well. So if there's anything that would stop us tomorrow, I think it could even be a message for Police Scotland, never mind the referees, just to be careful in what we're doing, especially in an empty stadium. I'm going to go 2-0. I think it'll be a nice conservative 2-0 for Celtic tomorrow.
2-0. Okay, fairly balanced. A couple more results coming in, or suggestions. Colin Rodgers going for 5-2 to Celtic. Couple of consolation goals for Rangers. Jerry O'Donnell, good friend of the show. Jerry's gone for 3-1 to Celtic. I'm going for 3-0. I keep saying it, but I think the clean sheet thing's so important to this Celtic side. I think Kasper Schmeichel takes great pride in it, and the guys ahead of him. And there've been some chopping and changing recently. I think as a unit, the goalie plus his back four, it's a big thing for them, and I think it puts down a real statement to go to Ibrox and pick up another clean sheet. I need to check Celtic's goal difference, but we've scored 52 goals, I think it is, in our 18 league games so far, and I think we've conceded just 4. So you're 48. Looking at 48, is it that? So it's a ridiculous number that Celtic are going on, but it's not by chance. You can get lucky at different times. That isn't by luck. That's by pure design. And I think there's so much work that goes on to getting clean sheets. So I'm going to go 3-0 Celtic. And as I mentioned before, Yang to score the last goal. So I'll price that up at the bookies after I jump off this recording. James, there's lots to look forward to. 3 o'clock kickoff at Ibrox. It is a chance to go 17 clear on the 2nd of January. But for now, your final thoughts ahead of the big game.
Just looking forward to it. Yeah, we spoke about the last couple of shows where we didn't get any credit for winning the first trophy of the season, and that's in at Celtic Park now. But there'll be no chat about how well Celtic did to get that, and that they were the only team playing the football. So we play our football tomorrow. We stretch our lead, and hopefully Aberdeen get their act together and start to climb up the table as well, and we can really start to enjoy it. So yeah, enjoy the game.
Yeah, indeed. Paddy, your own final thoughts for this one?
Just excited for it. I think we speak about players that show up in these games, and one of them is Kyogo. You mentioned there, Tino, 8 goals. One of, I think, a short list of Celtic players to score each end of Celtic Park, Hampden and Ibrox as well against Rangers. So it's a fun fact for Stevie Keenan on that one. But I just think he knows this game inside out. He knows how to go up against any of their defenders, and I just think tomorrow's his day. I'm expecting a Kyogo masterclass. Yeah,
I'd love to see it. So maybe we'll give Kyogo the first 2, Yang the third one. We're all up the road, happy, done and dusted. Brilliant start to the new year. Thanks to everyone who's joined us here in the live. Great numbers at the moment. And thanks to everyone who continues to comment and support the show. Likewise, thanks to everyone who chooses to listen to the Celtic Exchange in podcast format. It's really appreciated. Finally, my thanks to Paddy and James for joining us here at the top of the new year. Have a brilliant new year, and hopefully we kickstart that with another massive win at Ibrox. Have a good one, folks. We'll see you all again pretty